What's up, you guys? Week number 14 of the Chaz Way podcast, and I'm here joined by my funny friend. That's right, a funny friend, David Scott. It's Mr. Showtime. He's out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm telling you, this is going to be one of the funnest podcasts that I've probably ever done, and I'm really excited about it. So this guy, like I said, he's out of Vegas. I found him at a comedy show, Looney Bin in Oklahoma City,
You
and
just
I
found, you
just
just sort of found me wandering around outside,
yeah.
just like,
Yeah, I
what
found
do
him and
I
I was
do?
like, hey, come in with me. Join me for the show. It'll be a blast. No, he was the headliner at this show. And I'm going to tell you, and you can get into it, but I want to edify you real quick before you start talking about who you are. But I want to tell you that you are an absolute amazing entertainer, and I mean that from sincerely the bottom of my heart. I'm entertainment's been in my blood my whole life. I've managed bands. I've been a DJ. I love entertainment. I pay very close attention to entertainment, and you are an absolute showman. Hence the name, Mr. Showtime. But I want to give you absolute props. You are a great showman.
Oh, thank you very much. It's always wonderful to hear that. It's cool. It means that whatever I'm doing is finally it's translating to the folks. Because you had no idea who I was when you came to the show, and
I did not.
you just kind of walked in going, oh, let's go to the comedy club,
Mhm.
and so the fact that what I do is translating to, you know, being entertaining, being energetic, putting on a show.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. It
Yeah,
means
for sure.
I'm doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely don't want to give the show away because I think it's important that, as you know, you're all over the country and I want people to see you. But I will tell you something funny, and then we'll get into a proper introduction. But so when we got to the show, so we get there's two shows a night at this particular venue. And so I'm with Anna, who's my girlfriend, and when we get dropped off, we took an Uber and we get dropped off and we hear music going on inside. And so she's never been, like, she just moved from Minnesota here last year, so she's never been to the Looney Bin before, and she didn't know what to expect. And so as we're pulling up, and you can hear the what's going on inside, and the first thing she says, she's like, "They've got karaoke." And I'm like, "No, that's not karaoke." Mind you, I knew nothing about your show. I didn't know there was music. So Anna and I, very briefly, I'll tell you, like, we met through music. She and I sing. We have we sing on we have a social media platform. Like, it's crazy. We have met through music. We
Cool.
love music. We also think it's fun to karaoke. So the fact that I had no idea I was going to a show that would include so much music. And so to hear what happened was we were literally pulling in as you were wrapping up your previous show and hearing the music going on, and she's like, "Oh, it's karaoke." I'm like, "No, actually it's not karaoke. I don't know what we're in for." And so it was so cool that it was such a musically so full of music, and it was awesome. So guys, this is David Scott. Again, they call him Mr. Showtime. I want you to check him out on all the social media. I will plug the heck out of it. It'll be in the description below when this is over. So I definitely want you to give him a follow. And if you can go see him live somewhere, he's all over the country. Definitely go do that as well. But David, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you are, where you're from, maybe some of your history, and what you've got going on, man. So take it away.
Uh well, um, let's see. I guess if we're gonna start at the very beginning, my dad was a Broadway performer.
Okay.
And I grew up in a Broadway kind of environment. So the first time I was on stage, I was 5 years old, 1975,
Hmm.
which, if you break down, that's the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020. That means I've been doing this for 6 decades.
Sure.
Yeah,
Six radical styles of
yeah, yeah,
entertainment, if you will.
yeah. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been this April 1st of just a couple days ago, was the kickoff of my 29th year as a full-time professional entertainer, which is, and I preface that by saying that when I say full-time, I mean this is all that I do. I don't do anything else. I don't I'm not I'm not working a call center. I'm not doing remote jobs. I'm not I've done this and nothing but this for 29 years,
Mhm.
and it's awesome. It's great. I was a big fan of this guy, Steve Martin,
Mhm.
and I was 13 years old when I saw him for the very first time. And I said to myself, you can juggle, make balloon animals, put an arrow through your head, and then play the banjo and be considered a comedian. Well, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I moved away from the Broadway acting type of thing and started focusing on comedy. And over the years, as I have matured and gotten older, I weaved the Broadway lifestyle and entertainment back into my show because I do have a degree in theater.
Okay.
So I decided, oh, I want to stand out. I want to do something that no one else is doing. I want to have a show that nobody else can say, oh, I saw something like that, or I saw something similar to that.
Mhm.
So I started taking all the elements of my dad's influence, my Steve Martin influence, my love of just making people laugh. And I created this character that I did for 15 years called the Midnight Swinger. And it was essentially the beginning stages of opening up the people who are used to only one kind of comedy style to different styles. You know,
Okay.
people had gotten used to, I think he's the greatest comedian ever, Jerry Seinfeld. They'd gotten used to those kind of monology, storytelling, observational, like, what's the deal kind of comedy. And I wanted to expand on that because it seemed like when I was growing up, there were three kinds of comics. You had observational storytellers like Jerry Seinfeld. You had crazy prop comic like a Gallagher or a Carrot Top. And then you had guitar acts, guys who just play guitar.
Okay.
And I go, there's so much more to comedy than just those three things.
Sure.
So I created this show, and it was hard. There was an active pushback by the comedy community of what I was doing because I wasn't a headliner at the time. I was still just like an MC. I was a feature act. I was doing guest sets, and I'm coming in and doing these shows in front of comics after me that are not like me.
Mhm.
And there was an active pushback. Some people even saying that I'm not a real comedian. What I'm doing is, it's clownish, whatever. Uh, but I never ever called myself a stand-up comic. I
Mhm.
never misled anybody. I never said I was a stand-up comedian. I still don't consider myself a stand-up comedian. I consider myself a showman and an entertainer.
Mhm.
And so I fought very hard for a number of years until and this is it's a crazy because it was a horrible situation. But after 9/11, all the comedy clubs, they didn't know how to reopen. They didn't know how to get back into doing shows again. And I was offered a headlining gig at the Improv in Cleveland, Ohio. And I came in, never been there before, did my show, which is not political, not current events. It's all about escapism. It's all about having fun. And all of a sudden, all the doors opened up for me. So,
Wow.
so that's a 29-year story encapsulated into about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Hey, just out of curiosity, when you talk about that character that you did for 15 years and you said, what did you call it? Thus
The
Midnight
Midnight
Swinger.
Swinger. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when you talk about that style, maybe it was called clownish, it wasn't stand up, et cetera, et cetera. Give me an idea, like an example of what style of comedy was that? I want to know why maybe you would have received pushback. What was the style?
Well, I had a big. I kind of brought it back. I used to have this big pompadour. Oh, hang on, I'll give you an example. Hang on.
Okay.
That was the Midnight Swinger.
Okay.
Uh, loud, loud yellow, green, purple, red suits, humongous pompadour, always wearing sunglasses like this. Very,
So very big and loud.
very big, very loud,
So do
very
you feel
out.
like today's version of you is like a middle of the road? Because I still think, I mean, I feel
No,
like there's,
no, it's no. Once that character, the minute I'm what's called a character comedian. That means that it's like I said, it's like going to a play, going to Broadway. It's like going to see a show, like going to see Blue Man Group. These guys aren't dressed in blue makeup all day long.
Mhm.
They embody the character when they're on stage. That's what I do. I've created a character, and the character now, Mr. Showtime, is actually probably 20, 30 times bigger than the Midnight Swinger,
Gotcha.
because what the Midnight Swinger, I sort of painted myself into a corner, and I couldn't do the more outrageous things that I wanted to do.
Okay.
So I had to basically drop the whole Midnight Swinger persona, which I'd been for, 13, 14 years. And clubs had gotten used to it. And I said, I'm no longer the Midnight Swinger, I'm Mr. Showtime. And I had to basically reintroduce myself as Mr. Showtime with even a bigger show, a more outrageous show that allows me to go in any direction I want to go into. Like I don't mind giving parts of the show away. Like the final part of my show is this fantasy rock concert that I put on, where I do I do like what 14 songs in like 15 and a half minutes. And I try to sound and move like the performer, like be it Michael Jackson, Billy Idol, uh, Bruce Springsteen. Uh, I try to sound, look, and move as best I can, like they would at a live concert. But what makes this ending so crazier and so much fun is that as I am performing, there is a voice telling you rock tradition number one,
Mhm.
wave your hands in the air. So the audience is being given instructions on what to do
Mhm.
to make the experience even bigger,
Yeah.
even more exciting. And that's
Mhm.
I could not have done that as the Midnight Swinger. I had to
Sure.
do that. So um, yeah, it's the idea of what I do is all stems from just one goal, and that is that people leave my show happy.
Mhm.
That's that I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to I'm not trying to run for public office. I'm not trying to tell you how to think or how to feel. I have people from every spectrum of society come to my show, and I want them all to leave at the exact same time, smiling and saying, "Damn, that was fun."
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens before or after, but for those 90 minutes that I'm on stage, they're like, "That was fun. That was a good time. I want to see him again. I want to bring my friends to see him again."
Well,
It,
and I
it,
would say I want to. Sorry, did I cut you off? Okay. I would say for me, of course, music is my world. So for me, like you could have done the music montage for another 30 minutes and I'd have been in heaven, right? Because that's my jam. But I will say for me, you left me wanting more, which to me is the ultimate way to entertain
yeah,
in any aspect, comedy, uh, anything. I mean, anything. I feel like when you can leave somebody wanting more, that's the ultimate goal. And that's what you did, I believe, for me. The other thing that I thought you did that you do, which is awesome, is I think that no matter what generation you are in the audience, which I think in comedy you are going to get a wide spectrum, which you mentioned. I think you play to all of those parts because I mean, if you think about the montage, just the artists that you mentioned, Billy Idol, Michael Jackson, those kind of guys, a lot of the quote unquote older artists, they may not necessarily play into the younger generation, but because you kind of go full circle with it, and then also you there's some things that you do in your show that pertain very much to the younger, very youthful, like Y2K Gen Z generation. I think you just tie into everything. I want to ask you about that real quick. So in the show, you did some like you did some mentions of like TikTok, type stuff,
Yeah.
TikTok boy, right? Is
Mhm.
that in your show all the time, or is
Oh
that
yeah.
do you improv that in? Is that's always in it?
It's what's called planned improv,
Okay.
which is I know what I'm going to say. The audience thinks it is off the cuff.
Sure. Like you're just gonna you're just wait. You just identify once you get on stage, you identify somebody you're gonna use for that bit.
Yes. What I do is before the show, I try to find between 5 and 10 people that could theoretically be that kind of person.
Perfect.
Like I do did I do it? Did I do the air guitar bit?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Yeah. So the air guitar bit's another bit. I couldn't that's the air guitar bit involves me teaching a woman how to play the air guitar. Well, I've got to pick out 3 or 4 women before the show. And then as the show is going on, I'm watching them to see, are they laughing? Are they having a good time? Are they, so I can get the right person because
Gotcha. So
it's a
you're kind
very,
of vetting them in real time.
oh yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
never would have guessed.
Yeah. You'd be surprised when I'm on stage, I'm not what that's called. I'm not what's called in the moment because I am thinking it's like chess. I'm thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. I know how my show goes. It's if my show, believe it or not, is scripted out like a Broadway play. There's act one, act two, and act three.
Okay.
Now at the Looney Bin, um, I did not do my normal 75-minute show. I think I only did like 50 minutes at the Looney Bin because
Okay.
that's what they want. They don't want the full show, which is fine. Um, like there's a straitjacket routine that I do in my show. Uh, the closer, the air guitar. I believe I did the world's most dangerous bit in comedy, which is the shoving the sing with marshmallows in my mouth.
Yes.
And if you're a fan of music, that should just horrify you in
Yeah.
every sense of the word, because um, I have fun with Michael McDonald and the Doobie Brothers, which is actually a very, very funny story. Um, I was in St. Louis performing at a casino, and Michael McDonald is from St. Louis, and his brother was in the audience when I did that bit, and he's well known, and he actually came backstage after my show, had his brother on speakerphone
Wow.
going, I just met a guy who sounds more like you than you do. So
That
that
is awesome.
which is a cool moment, which is a
Yeah,
cool
well, I
moment.
actually wondered when I saw the bit, I wondered if you had any tie or connection to him because you nail it. You nailed it, and that's not only would it not be easy to do, but particularly in the circumstance that you were doing, it was certainly not easy to do. So that's cool. That's cool that you got to kind of sort of have an interaction there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. So again, these are the things that I can do because I'm a character. I can explore different avenues of entertainment that would not be traditional comedy
Mhm.
uh tropes, not like hey, I was flying on a plane and the waitress or the stewardess or the person next to me, or I was driving down the road, or I don't have to do I don't have to do the normal, setup, punchline, segue, setup, punchline, segue
Mhm.
routine. I can go into all sorts of different tangents, which allows me to do the world's most entertaining comedy. It allows me to do the air guitar. It allows me to do a straight jacket routine. It allows me to do the big finale. It allows me to dress in a way that when I walk on stage, this is the main guy.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be confused for a patron. I'm not going to be confused for the valet. I'm
Mhm.
like, when I walk in, they go, that's the guy we're seeing.
Yeah.
And
And
I
and and no offense to any other role, but you're also not going to be confused for the opener or the feature. I mean,
exactly.
straight up, like
Yeah.
in fact, I'm going to assume you do this intentionally, but because entertainment is a huge part of my life, I also noticed that again, I'm going to assume it was intentional, but like because I saw you off, so I saw you between sets. So you came back like to the merch table before we got to go in for that second show. We are in the lobby, and I noticed that you were like just in a t-shirt. I didn't see you on the first show because I was in the outs in the lobby, right? So,
Mhm.
When I saw you, you're in a t-shirt and you're just, you're out there, meeting fans and selling merch. So when I see my first introduction to you as Mr. Showtime, you were dressed to the nines as this is the headliner. This is the show, right? Because back in fully dressed as as the character. And maybe I'm assuming it's intentional. Maybe you were hot and you
Oh
just
yeah.
took your jacket off, but I
Oh
assume,
no, no, that's very intentional.
yeah, that's a true entertainer. I love that. So, so many questions, but one thing I think is awesome is I feel like that gives you freedom. It's to me, it sounds like you have a lot of freedom in that, but is it the opposite? Are you actually so scripted that you don't have a lot of freedom because you stay right to your script?
Oh, no, no, I've got tons of freedom
Okay.
to do whatever I want, but the core of the show is scripted. I know how the show begins. I know how it ends.
Okay.
There are no surprises. I know exactly how long I've been on stage. I know exactly what I can do. I consider myself a professional first and foremost.
Sure.
And when you're asked to do a 75-minute show, you don't do 50 minutes. You also don't do 90 minutes. You do 70 minutes. So if I'm on stage and something happens, an improv moment, something unexpected, I know that I'm going to have to cut something out, move something around, because again, in my head, I am always thinking, where do we go to get to the ending of the show? Because the ending of the show is like the finale of a 4th of July fireworks display, because you go to a fireworks display and you get boom, ah, ooh, ah, but the end is just like bada 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 bada. So I know my ending is like the fireworks of finale. Uh, but I've got to get people there.
Mhm.
I've got to build them up to where when I get to the ending, they're like crazed and like thrilled. And, they're standing up, they're applauding, they're cheering, they're singing along, they're dancing, which is what I want, which is the goal.
Absolutely.
So if something happens on stage and I end up improvising something, I end up doing something, I will have to cut out the straitjacket bit, or I'll have to cut out or shorten uh, a routine or shorten a bit, which is just what you do as an entertainer. Because,
Yeah, and you've done it so long that you're able to just do that on the fly. Do you feel
oh
like
yeah,
you do that? I mean, nobody would ever, obviously the guest, the audience would never know. Does that come pretty natural to you, just the adjust and adapt in real time?
there was a movie called Heartbreak Ridge, came out in the 80s. Um, Not a great movie, but it had one amazing line: adapt and improvise.
Oh,
And I have lived my entire life with that motto: adapt and improvise.
that's great.
And if you can just move, you kind of want to move like water and just be able to, because I perform, like I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and then I was in Washington, D.C. These are two different crowds. I know it's going to be shocking to the people watching and listening that the Little Rock crowd and the DC crowd, nowhere close to the same.
Right.
But I'm still doing my show
Yeah.
as Mr. Showtime. So I have to be very aware that I might have to adapt
Mhm.
and improvise to where I am and the situation where I am telling jokes. Sometimes I got to slow down. Sometimes I've got to speed up. Uh, Sometimes I got to be a little bit more energetic. Sometimes I got to reel it back. So you've got to be able to adapt and
Yeah,
improvise.
absolutely. I love that. And the word adapt is a really powerful word. It's a word I feel like I've used a lot in the last year or so, because I think it's important to not only adapt but also to acknowledge other people that adapt, because that's a key thing in growth and entrepreneurship. I think it's important to adapt in life. It's kind of like picking your battles. Sometimes you just need to look at what's ahead, what's important, and how do you move through it. Well, you adapt,
Mhm.
and so that's awesome. And improvise obviously is huge, but it also just goes hand in hand with what you do. So that's very cool. So the you did the um, help me out again. The
Midnight Swinger. Midnight
Midnight
Swinger.
Swinger. You did that character for just right at about 15 years, and then you moved into Mr. Showtime. How long ago was that transition?
Let's see. Mr. Showtime has now been what, about 6 years?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It's 2022. COVID and the 2 years off has kind of like messed things up. I would say I started Mr. Showtime around 2000, right? Right around 2017 is when I started creating this character.
Okay.
And to create a character after being another character means I had to deconstruct the Midnight Swinger. Because I didn't want to bring any of that Midnight Swinger character over into the Mr. Showtime. I didn't want there to be any confusion of what I was doing.
Okay.
So to do that, you've got to break down everything that you have built up. I have branded myself. I was branded as the Midnight Swinger, and I had to deconstruct it, break it down to nothing, and then rebuild a new character. Um, and that's harder than it sounds. I see a lot of I look at someone like Prince, the performer Prince, the entertainer Prince, who was constantly reinventing himself, constantly reinventing the way that he performed classic songs that you knew by heart. He
Mhm.
was changing, and some people loved it, and some people hated it. Some people wanted to hear the the Purple Rain, Prince and the Revolution. Some people liked New Power Generation. Some people loved, the Third Eye version. All the different versions of Prince. But at the end of the day, he created this tapestry where you go to a Prince show, you're not really sure what you're going to get, but you're going to be entertained. So I had to deconstruct what was already I'm not trying to brag, a very popular show. The Midnight Swinger show was very popular. I was headlining every club in the country, but I'd known that I'd gone as far as I could go, and I'd hit the ceiling and I wasn't going any further.
Mhm.
And the one thing I am in this business, I'm very self-aware, and I know that I had hit this ceiling. I know that I'd hit this point. So I thought 45 years old. And I'm like, I'm 45 years old and I've hit the ceiling and I'm not done yet. I don't want to keep on regurgitating this Midnight Swinger character, and the crowds get smaller and smaller, and the venues get smaller and smaller. I go, no, that's not what I want to do. So I broke it down. I pissed off a lot of people, a lot of clubs, a lot of venues were like, oh no, we want that guy. And then I had to convince them to bring me back in as Mr. Showtime. And all they do is see me once. All they
Yeah.
do is see me one time. And they're like going, okay, this is better.
Yeah. You
And
just had to
it is.
deliver.
It is a better show. I love the Midnight Swinger. I'll always love the Midnight Swinger. But Mr. Showtime is straight up just a better show
Mhm.
from beginning, middle, and end. It's more rounded, it's deeper, it's more fleshed out, it's more fun. And that's all I want to do. It's so much more fun.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. So, you live in Vegas. Where are you from?
New York,
Okay.
Queens.
Gotcha. Awesome. I hear it in your voice. How
Yeah.
long have you been in Vegas?
90 since what, 98?
Okay. Did you move to Vegas for business
No.
or just okay? Why'd you
No,
move to Vegas?
I lived in LA before I moved to Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Did you move to LA for business?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I moved to LA for comedy.
Gotcha.
I graduated college, and 3 days after I graduated college, I was performing in Las Vegas, a place called the Laugh Stop. This is a fun little story. I drove across to California, to a place called Upland, California,
Mhm.
and I drove past a comic book called the Laugh Stop, and it was like 9:30 in the morning. I just walked in, and there was a woman there. Go, are you here for the contest? And I'm like, sure. So I signed up.
Wow.
First person to sign up. And they go, okay, just be back here 7:30 tonight, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay. I had no idea that this contest that I'd signed up for at 9:30 in the morning was a contest to become the house MC for the last No idea. It turns out like they only had 15 spots, and the first 15 people that signed up were on the show. And there was 50, 60 people trying to get there. And I just had to be driving by it.
Nothing
No one
happens
knew
on
me.
accident.
No one knew me. So I walk in at 7, uh, and I say at that time I was just David Scott. David Scott signed up for the contest. Like, okay, blah blah blah. Didn't know anybody. No, everybody looked at me like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what this is. I just thought it was an open mic. I thought it was just an open mic. It was a Tuesday, you know. I was like, it's an open mic. Meet the owner. His name is Adam Berenson. Tells everybody the contest. I go, oh my god, this is for the House MC gig. It's like, okay, that's okay. The audience was going to judge the contest. They had one of those applause meters, you know,
Yeah.
and we all drew numbers, 15 people, and they go, okay, in order, David, you sign up first. You get a pick first. Pick number 6, which is like the greatest number to pick because the audience is not quite warmed up, and then they're not quite burned out.
Okay.
So you want to be 4, 5. You want to be 4, 5, 6, or 5, 6, 7. You want to be right there in the sweet spot.
Okay.
You know, and I picked 6, and you heard the other comics go, "Oh my god!" You heard the groan because I didn't know
Yeah.
these. I didn't know any of that. I wasn't friends with anybody. And Anna Barron goes, "Who are you?" And I go, "I just drove in today. I was just driving by. I graduated from the University of Missouri 3 days ago, and I just drove here, and I was just trying to get." He doesn't look at me. He goes, "That's crazy." He goes, "You funny?" I go, "I guess we're going to find out, aren't we?" He goes, "I guess we are." Go up 6, crush it because I've got a theater
And
background.
what year is this?
This is 93.
So you're new to comedy.
I'm new to comedy. I've been doing comedy in and around. I started my first stand-up comedy show I was 16.
Okay.
And I'd done comedy in Little Bang, but I've never done it at a comedy. I did Catch a Rising Star, but as just like a guest set, as
Okay.
you know.
But you're definitely new to LA comedy. Like,
I'm new to LA comedy. I had no
okay.
idea the clickiness of it.
Yeah.
So I go up there, I crush it. All the comics come on stage. They go every comic, and it's not even close. They were going to do the top 3, and then they go, and then everybody else. I won, and it wasn't even. I mean, they go, we're not even going to do a top 3. Our new house MC is David Scott, and 14 comics were just, they never spoke to me again.
Wow.
And even after 6 months, they still did, like, because I was doing what I was trained to do, perform.
Yeah.
So I won that contest, and had 6 months of on the job learning. And what makes my story so unique is that when you're in LA, you're fighting for stage time. You're fighting for 3 minutes here, 5 minutes there, whatever. This is back in the 90s when comedy in LA was hot. We were doing 12 shows a week, and I was the house MC. I was doing 5 to 6 minutes 12 times a week
Wow.
for 6 months. I never had to do the open mics. I never had to do guest sets. I didn't do any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiter during the day, stand-up comedy at night. After 6 months, I made friends with some of the comedians. They brought me as their opening acts. So I went from house MC to touring comedian in less than a year. And I was really, really good, not trying to brag, but I was really good. Within 18 months, I'm headlining.
Wow.
And that's the story. I never had to play this game of begging for work, trying to claw my way up. I got very lucky, but I've always said I got very, very lucky, but friends always say, no, you're just very, very good. Your talent came through. So,
Well, and you utilized the talent. I mean, you obviously you knew you were good. Well, I mean, maybe you didn't know you were good, but you used you used the talent you had, and then you capitalized on it. Some people have talent and they don't capitalize on it. Some people you have talent, they sit on the couch.
yeah, that's true. I mean, you've got to hustle in almost any, if you want to succeed in any form of life, you've got to hustle,
Mhm.
especially when you're trying to cut your own path. be your own boss, have your own company, have your own
Mhm.
business. You're not following a blueprint that was set up by somebody else. You are cutting your own path,
Mhm.
and you got to hustle. And it, I believe it was harder then than it is now. And I know that's probably because, oh, old man, the past is always harder. But we didn't have social media, we didn't have email, we didn't have YouTube videos, we didn't have access to a phone that can record a video in 4K. We were using VHS cameras that were as big as like a shoebox,
Yeah.
VHS steps, and we were editing themselves. I mean, I had two VHS players, and I was using them to edit videos back and forth. Um, and then you had to actually physically hand your press pack to a club owner. There was no email. I know it's hard to say. Back in the 90s, there was no email.
Yeah.
If you had a fax machine, that was considered high tech.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a different time. Now it is it's hard now because there are so many people just on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. And you have no idea if they're good or bad because I can edit anybody
Mhm.
in a 3-minute video to look like a star.
Sure.
Um, all the gadgets and gizmos that we have at our fingertips now that were considered luxuries, back in the 90s.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm like, how much more do I want to compete with with these kids coming up? Because like I said, I'm self-aware. I always knew that there was an end date for me. I was always aware that at some point you're gonna have to step away. I always was looked at like athletes and performers, like going, yeah, why are you hanging on? This is kind of sad. It's kind of depressing.
Mhm.
Why are you hanging on? So I always knew that there was going to become a time when I was going to have to step away, and I've been preparing for it for years. Eventually, I can't physically do what I'm doing now. My body eventually is going to be like, we're done. We can't. You can't do the jumping around. You can't do the straight jacket. Luckily, I've managed to stay somewhat in shape and somewhat healthy, but I've got a bad hip that's degenerative that's going to need hip replacement surgery. I've been to the Mayo Clinic and they said the day you retire is the day we're going to replace your hip. You
Wow.
know, I wear a humongously large knee brace on my right knee when I perform because I've got just horrible knee issues in my right knee. Um, but eventually it's going to become like, I just can't do this anymore. I
Mhm.
can't perform anymore. And it's going to be harder to step away from the laughter. It's going to be easy to step away from all the other nonsense, the YouTube videos, the TikTok videos, the constantly trying to produce content for online.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
Yeah, I'm cannot wait for that day where I can step away from that. I
Yeah.
no longer have to post stuff, 3, 4 times a week just to stay relevant. So,
Sure. So, what is your game plan? I mean, you are forward thinking and you are obviously wise. What does that look like for you? I mean, have you what where are you at in 3 to 5 years from now?
well, before COVID hit, my goal is to retire at 55. Um, I My dad being in the business always taught me it's show business. And those are two different words. You got to understand the business side of this even more than the show side. Because I know a lot of entertainers, a lot of comics who on the show, they're the best. They make my mouth, oh wow. But on the business side, they don't have $300 in their checking account.
Hmm.
I have I have been investing. I have been, saving. I own my own home. I've got no debt. So I am preparing for a life that when I am done, I can just fun. I can live a very enjoyable life. I can travel, I can do things. And I don't think I'll quit comedy. I'll probably end up doing like, 12 to 15 shows a year.
Yeah.
Because there are some clubs that will just want to bring me back. So, but I won't be doing, I mean, 12 to 15 shows a year is probably, you know, my max because I'm doing upwards of 100 shows now to give an idea of how many shows I'm doing, you know. Um, so, but you get paid a certain amount of money. That 12 to 15 shows, you can make a nice amount of change, but I can just use that to, you know, go to Australia or something.
Sure.
And so um I'm looking forward to just sort of just stepping back, not being so much in front of the camera, and being on stage because it is exhausting, as you said, it's exhausting. The travel is exhausting. So I'm kind of looking forward to traveling and not having to travel to perform, but travel just to travel, have fun.
Enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me I still have a few more questions, but let me just
Yep.
came to my mind, and sometimes things just I gotta say what comes to my mind. But let me have you ever considered maybe some mentorship or some guidance or some coaching as you
I've
step
done.
off the stage?
I've done that. I've helped a bunch of young comics. Um, when I'm on if I'm on the road, I see somebody, I just look for passion. I've met a bunch of comics that their comedy is kind of on the low end, but their passion is like through the roof.
Mhm.
And I help those comics out. There's like three or four comics that I've helped out over the course of a few years and just help them evolve
Mhm.
and become bigger and hopefully they'll, you know, achieve what they're hoping to achieve out of this business.
Yeah. I just think that some of the things that you've said are very niche. I think that, first of all, the business aspect is a huge reminder. It's kind of like people that are in any kind of show business. I know a lot of entertainers, like musicians, and even people like me who have gone through life and not I haven't always made great financial choices, and I don't know a lot about. I still am the first to admit, like I'm not great with my money. I don't know a lot about different areas of savings and et cetera, et cetera. And that's so normal.
Mhm.
But like for you being an example of somebody who does like that, those are things that you could teach and train and coach and guide. There is space for that. There are people that could be taught that. And I mean, I'm not at all telling you what to do. I'm just thought, that is an area that might be a great thing for you since you do love what you do. And I think you love comedy in general and love entertainment. Maybe coaching, which would certainly not be as physically taxing. That might
Right.
be a really really cool thing, and there's some cool
Um,
packaging you could put together for it. So might be
yeah,
something to think about.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've been approached for a couple of things. Um, it's hard to think about any of that right now because I still think I've got about another 4 years
Yeah.
left. Like I turned 52 in 14 days.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, okay, I'm 52, I'm relatively in good shape. 3 more years gets me to 55, which was going to be my retirement age. But then COVID happened. So I lost about 18 months of performing. So I could probably go to 56. So it's really hard to think
You don't
about
wanna, you don't think
that
about your
part.
exit plan now.
Well, no, I mean, I guess I just don't know exactly how to think about what I want to do next when I'm still really enjoying what I'm doing now.
Sure.
Because like I said, I don't want to be so far out of the moment. But I'm always planning. Like I said, I always knew that at some time comedy was going to be in. I didn't want to be that 68-year-old comic, doing a bar show for $200. I never wanted to be that. I
Yeah.
never want to be that. I want to leave on something that's like when I can be proud of this. I can leave a
Yes.
legacy behind. Um, but I still think that, I mean, I'm still getting calls. I think my phone, yeah, I've got like 4 messages, of clubs that want me to come to their venue and do this, but it's all about right time, right motivation. Is the situation good? I keep on turning down work in certain parts of the country because, like, listen, I love your venue, but there's not enough money for me to get out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of comics don't realize that just because you're offered a gig doesn't mean you have to take the gig. It's like, well, why don't you come to Seattle, Washington for $300? I'll go, okay, let's see. It's going to cost me $600 in flights just to get there. So no, the answer is no. And as some comics don't get that, some comics just don't realize.
Sure.
I go, I got the gig. I go, you're losing money. You would actually make more money if you stayed home and watched TV. You know that, right? And sometimes that thinking is hard for people to understand.
Yeah, especially young, eager people,
Yeah,
but I mean,
yeah. But I would love at some point, and this has been approached by me, of actually running a club, not performing a club, running a club, being the face, the maitre d' when you walk in type thing. Hi, welcome to the club. Running the show, making sure the sound is right, the lights are right, booking the acts so that you are booking. I think that would be something that I would enjoy because I'd still be around it, but I wouldn't have the pressure of actually having to go on stage and tell the jokes.
sure. And I think you could be really, if you chose to be, I think you would, really selective of who you have on the stage. I think that can make or break a venue also. And some people might disagree, but it's the same as music venues, which is just happens to be what I know more about. But I mean, you could own a music venue, and if you're putting crap on stage every night, you're gonna have less and less people at your venue.
You're
And
100% right.
so, it's the
100% right.
same
Yeah.
thing with a comedy club. It's what's the experience like. And we could talk about that off the air, but I mean, everything is about the experience.
Oh yeah.
So
The crowds are unforgiving. If they have a bad experience, they may not come back for a year.
mhm, mhm,
If you, it's like that comic was horrible. If this is what comedy is, I'm not coming back.
sure.
Same with music. That band was horrible. That singer was horrible. They were drunk. They weren't professional. They didn't sound good. They whatever. And they're like going, I'm never coming back to this place again.
Right.
And that is a real problem. That is a real issue
Yeah.
in our field of entertainment because in a lot of times you get one shot.
Mhm.
You got somebody coming in for their first time. If they have a great time, they're coming back. If they have a bad time, they may never come back.
Mhm.
You can have a good time like 5 times in a row and have one bad experience going, I'm never coming back here again.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Just how we're programmed. Hey, so speaking of venues, did you like you've got a really well-oiled machine with, we've talked about the timing and the act 1, 2, and 3. One of the things that I super admired about your set is that you have, first of all, you've got this trigger button, you've got on your, a foot pedal. Um, did you I'm assuming, did you produce everything like you did? So really, like, you don't even need anybody in the booth, right? Like when you go to a venue, what do you actually require? And I'm kind of nerding out because I've been a
I
DJ
need
forever.
if all I need is a mic line, XLR. And for the people who don't know what an XLR mic line is, it's this. This is an XLR mic
Mhm.
line. All right, you know what this is. You
Yep.
know, it plugs into the microphone like this. All right. And the fact that I just haven't had that handy is really funny. Um, I just need that. I need that and a power source so I can plug into a power outlet. The mic line, the XLR line, goes to their board, their mixing board, which goes to their sound system. That's all I need because I've got a small mixer on stage.
Mhm.
Everything is controlled by 3-foot pedals on the stage. Um, the opening bit, which you step on the stage, you hear like, "Ladies and gentlemen, America's #1 comedy entertainer. It's Mr. Showtime." All I need is for somebody, the MC, to walk on stage, press on the pedal, and then walk off stage. I control everything else right there. And I don't have it with me. It's almost like when you go to a concert and you see the band, they list their songs,
Mhm.
the tracks.
Liner
Well,
notes or whatever, yeah. Or
well,
not liner notes, but
the
like a
set list,
song list, set
the
list.
set list. I've got the same thing. I've got a set list, and there's 99 tracks. So I can decide as I'm on stage, the crowd's not going to like this, but they're going to like this. So I can adjust as, and I just do it off my foot. And if I do it well, you don't even see me doing it. I'm just tapping with my foot onto
Yeah.
3 different buttons. And it's probably the thing that set my show on a different path, because clubs hate to have to do sound cues for comedians. They hate to have somebody in the sound booth going, okay, Jimmy, track 3, a little bit more on the high end. No, more bass, way too much echo. No, bring
Sure.
the reverb. They hate that. It's a comedy show. So I took it out of their hands and I put it all on stage to where I can do it myself.
Yeah, I love
And
that. That's why I asked, because I didn't notice anybody in the booth, which I pay attention to just because that's my thing.
right,
I didn't notice anybody in the booth, and I noticed that like the levels were all good. So I mean, I'm sure you probably do like a quick sound check beforehand for just
oh
get the
yeah,
levels where you want
oh
them,
yeah, oh yeah,
and your mic is set, and of course the opener, when he introduces you, I actually remember now that you say that he did trigger that button and walked off after he introduced you, and then you take it from there.
right, right. and
That is
and
so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I travel with my own sound system. It's my own microphone, my own mic stand, my own mic lines, my own stuff, because I know what my stuff sounds like. You go to a comedy club, they can be using a $20 microphone that's just nothing but tinny,
Mhm.
or one that's been beat up and hit on the ground so many times.
Sure.
My show is so sound oriented that it's got to sound right, and it's got to sound the same everywhere I go.
Mhm.
So, but
Yeah.
yes, I travel with my own stuff. So
Very, very cool. And so are you usually doing like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or is it what's generally your week like?
well, I just got back. I just did a Tuesday through Sunday run
Oh, wow.
in Newport News, Virginia. I was Tuesday through Sunday.
Mhm.
Uh, did DC. That was just a Thursday.
Okay.
Uh,
So it
I just
varies.
it really does. There is no more rhyme or reason to comedy since
Mhm.
COVID. And I hate to bring up COVID so much. COVID has completely changed the business,
Mm.
and not for the better.
Yeah.
Um, there was a time before COVID that I was usually on the road Wednesday. It was either Tuesday through Saturday or Wednesday through Sunday. That was a typical time on the road. Now it's like Friday, Saturday, maybe a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Oh, we got a Sunday. Oh, we got a special event. Like I'm doing one show on Saturday, but I'm getting paid a lot of money for one show, so it makes it worthwhile. So we
Sure.
got one show on Saturday, So it's kind of all over the map. Like I'm kind of right now booking my shows for the summer, where I'm on the road for right now. I'm on the road. I've got a 4-week tour that starts July 15th and goes through August 7th as of right now. In all likelihood, there's going to be some more shows added to that. So that's 4 straight weeks on the
Mhm.
road. That's 28 days, and I'll be doing 23 shows in 28 days.
Okay.
And that's pretty normal. That's a pretty normal stretch.
Okay.
And then I'll take a month off, and then
Okay.
I'll do it again. So
Gotcha. Now, that's perfect segue. So do you book your own stuff or do you have somebody? You do.
I used to have an agent, and I realized that I know what I want to do better than an agent, because an agent just takes the gig.
Sure.
I know where I want to go. I'm fortunate that I can now be picky.
Hmm.
I can pick and choose. I can say no. I can say this isn't right. This isn't working for me. So I have been booking myself. I do all my own social media, my own website. I do it all myself, because I just know me better than anybody else.
Hmm.
I know what I want the image out there. I know what I want it to say. I know the message that I want people to get when they see a video on YouTube, or they go to my website, they go to my Instagram page, or for some reason, TikTok, which has become my number one social media. For
Mm.
some reason, I've got over 2 million views on TikTok. It's insane.
That's awesome.
Uh, it's unexpected, because I've only been off like 6 months,
Wow.
and so I know what I want people to do, and I've rebranded myself to be Now I call myself very famous, insanely well known, and quite popular. That's the tag. The new T-shirt says, this is it's got this little face right there, but
Gotcha.
it says it's Mr. Showtime, very famous, insanely well known, quite popular, and that's the image that I want people to associate with me. So every time you see a video, I'm repeating that phrase over and over and over again, so that when people hear it, they go, Mr. Showtime,
Yep.
Mr. Showtime, very famous. Mr. Showtime, insanely well known. And I actually get a kick out of doing that. That's actually fun for
That's
me.
good. That's great.
So
That's a great identifier with your branding. I love that.
yeah, yeah. So
So
and only I know how to do that. I can't. A marketing, a PR firm or a manager won't understand it as well as I can understand it, and I can sell it better. That's why I just do it all myself.
absolutely. Yeah. And if you don't mind it, if it's not overwhelming to you, and I'm sure there's days where it might be overwhelming, but
Hmm.
if you don't really truly don't mind it, then that's great. I know a lot of very, very successful people, and I'm amazed at how many people want to manage their own social media, because they want to have that physical touch and contact, and they
Yeah,
want to, it's when you let go of that, sometimes it's nice for the sake of like time management, but at the same time, you lose a lot of connection.
true. Yeah,
So,
I found
okay,
that.
so tell me about like as soon as I found out you lived in Vegas, my first thought, again, I'll say this like for the last time, I promise before we wrap up, entertainment's like my thing, right? So
Yeah,
when I think Vegas, I think entertainment. So then I think like, okay, like there's so many Vegas gigs, and there's Carrot Top has a residency there. And I think he does.
at the
And
Luxor. He's at the Luxor.
yeah, and so I think of like entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. And and so I think of you as such a huge, not only are you a major entertainer, but you're a large entertainer. You're a loud entertainer. So, but Vegas is just home for you. So, are you doing Vegas? Or are you tapping into anything in Vegas? Because we haven't talked about it.
No, not since COVID. Vegas, for all its positives, it's really struggling right now.
Okay.
The entertainment scene has not come back. Uh, the venues are not at full capacity. Um, the people that are coming to Vegas are not coming to see shows. Katy Perry had a hard time selling out Vegas World. I don't think she sold out a single show.
Wow.
Adele canceled. Kiss Adele canceled her residency. Kiss canceled their residency. Um, the people are not ready to be in that environment yet.
Okay.
Um, so no, Vegas right now is not doing very well. Um, there are a couple comedy clubs that are grinding it out, and God bless them. God bless them. Um, but right now, for me, Vegas is just where I go. It's not where I work. So
Yeah. It's just
it.
home.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. It's like, I would love to be to have a conversation with you in 18 months saying that I am off the road. I'm in Vegas full time. People now got to come to see me. I would love that. I would love to be able to say that. That would be awesome. I
Mhm.
could do comedy for the next 10 years if I just performed in Vegas and nowhere else. But right now, that's just not possible. Not in the current climate of entertainment.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: Is there let's even say pre-COVID, is there a market for comedy? Because I will say this: I don't think comedy when I think Vegas. I think entertainment.
And
I
you're right.
don't think comedy.
Well, not the kind of comedy that worked in Vegas is Chris Rock, Caesar's Palace, Jerry Seinfeld, Caesar's Palace, Andrew Dice Clay at the Tropicana. We're talking uh, big
Huge
mega
acts.
stars. We're talking huge
Okay.
mega stars. There'll always be a venue for that, of the big time stars.
Okay.
The next level down, nah,
Right.
we're getting squeezed out. So
Gotcha. And are there a lot of comedy? Like I can't. I've only been to Vegas once, but I can't. I don't. Again, I don't think comedy when I think Vegas. But are there comedy clubs? I mean, maybe for the locals, but are there like the Strip's not
oh,
full of
sure.
comedy
Well,
clubs?
yeah. I mean, you got the LA Comedy Club, the Strat. You have Wise Guys. You have Brad Garrett's Comedy Club.
Okay, so there are some.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Laugh Factory. There's four good comedy clubs in
Okay.
Vegas. One's at the Tropicana, one's at New York, one's at the Stratosphere, and one's at MGM Grand. You
Gotcha.
know, and these are good clubs. They're some some are doing better than others, but they're all struggling with COVID. They're all struggling with COVID, and I think there's also an economic factor. It's like, where do people want to spend their money? Do I want to spend $50 at a comedy club, or do I want to spend $75 to see Chris Rock?
Sure.
Well, I'm probably gonna spend $75 to see Chris Rock. So
Yeah. All right. Well, and I mean, like you said, 18 months and maybe a different fact, different story.
hope so.
I'm gonna push
Yeah.
for that for you, if that's what works. So that's awesome, man. I mean, I could pick your brain and ask questions forever. I love it. What do you feel like if you could just fast forward? We've talked a little bit about what maybe the next 3 to 5 years looks like, but if you could talk about in 10 years from now, you're about to be 52. If you're looking at let's say you're rolling into your 60th birthday, where
Mhm.
do you want to be? Obviously, vacationing and traveling is something you enjoy, but where do you want to be in life? Like, if you closed your eyes for 10 seconds, what is what does 60 years old look like for not just Mr. Showtime, but truly for David Scott? What does 60 years old look like?
I just hope that I'm healthy. I hope that I'm somewhere where I can wake up every morning. I never want to see snow, so I want to live somewhere where I'll never see snow. Um, I hope I'm with somebody that I can have fun with and laugh with. I want to spend as much time laughing and smiling as I can. I do not want to be sad. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be, you know, um, in a place where I am always worried. I'm hoping that I've lived and done everything well enough that I can enjoy the fruits of my labor, I guess, for lack of a better term. So I hope I'm someplace where I'm just really just smiling and laughing. I don't think I'll ever be like a hiker. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to be on the side of a mountain climbing. No, I don't see myself doing that. So,
Yeah.
but I hope that I'm just someplace where I'm just smiling and
Cool.
feeling good.
That's awesome. So, I knew this guy when I was like maybe my freshman year. There was this kid in school. And so still to this day, I'm 45 years old. I think when I think of comedy, I think of this kid named Jordan. I don't know anything about him, but I remember his name was Jordan. I remember he did like this stand-up talent thing at school. He was really quiet, kind of like a closed off kid, but he was really funny. And the only way he would ever express himself was with comedy. And I really admired it. I just thought it was awesome, especially as such a quiet kid. Um, and it was like his thing, and I thought that was so cool. And I don't know why I remember that or why I'm even sharing that with you. But my question is, what would you say? Like, could you inspire somebody? Like, there are definitely people that, I know for me, I go to a comedy show and I leave, and I'm like, I think I'm 10 times funnier when I leave because I'm like so inspired. I'm like,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
hilarious. I remember when I left your show, we got in the Uber, and I was like cracking jokes, and Anna's like, "You're not funny." I'm like, "I'm hilarious." She's like, "No, no, no. You left hilarious. That wasn't you. The hilarious is at the comedy club." And but I always joke like that, but like there are people that truly have some talent, and that's a scary thing to get on a stage, much like music, like an open mic night for an artist or a musician is very similar to an open mic night for somebody like you as in comedy. So maybe if there's somebody that has a desire, what would you say? How could you maybe inspire somebody?
I would tell anybody, if you even have a little bit of desire to get on stage, get on stage.
Yeah.
Get on stage. Do not wonder what if.
Okay.
I guess if you know I want to be when I'm 60. I don't I want to be at 60 not wondering what if. What if I had done this? What if I had tried that? What if I had gone there? What if I had bought that? Never wonder what if. If you have any inkling, if you got one joke, if you got 30 seconds of material and you want to stand in front of a crowd, find a venue that has an open mic and get on stage for that 30 seconds and tell that joke. There is no better feeling than when you walk off that stage for the very first time. Whether you sucked, whether you were amazing, whether you sang perfectly, whether your voice was cracking, that feeling when you walk off stage, that adrenaline that's going to be pumping through you is going to be like nothing you've ever felt before. You're going to be nervous. You're going to want to poop your pants. You think you're going to throw up. Your stomach's in knots. But when it's done, you're going to be like going, I want to do it again because it's such an amazing feeling. So I encourage everybody, young, old, no matter where you are in your life, no matter what's going on, if you want to get on stage, God, get on stage, tell that joke, sing that song, do the magic trick, whatever you want to do. It's such an amazing rush. And I want everybody to feel it. I am not selfish. I do not want to keep this feeling to myself. I've been doing this for 29 years, performing since I was 5 years old. When I walk off stage and the people are standing and screaming and whatever, it's an amazing feeling. There's no drug in the world that can match that feeling. And people walking by after the show, that I hear it all the time, and it feels amazing every time I hear it. That's the best show I've ever seen.
Mm.
I must have heard that 10,000 times in my life, and it never gets old. You never get tired of it. I never get tired of trying to give 120%. So the crowd knows that I left it all on stage, no matter where I was, whether it was Little Rock, Arkansas, whether it was Kenosha, Wisconsin, whether it was Washington, D.C. I gave you everything I've got. And you telling me that was the best show I've ever seen, the applause. I want everybody to feel that. So
Yeah. Wow. What an inspiration for somebody that has a desire to do something other than nothing, right? That's so cool. That's so cool. That's awesome. That fires me up. So last question, and we're going to wrap up, and I sure appreciate your time investment today. Last question. What is the greatest moment or accomplishment that you've had in your life as of today, on or off stage?
No, my greatest comedy moment is when I set the Guinness World Record for the longest stand-up comedy show in history. I guess you didn't know about it. I set the Guinness World Record for the longest stand-up comedy show in history at 40 hours and 8 minutes of straight stand-up comedy. That is my greatest achievement in comedy because nobody else can say it in the world. I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's awesome. It's an amazing feeling. I'm the only comic in the world that gets that credit. Nobody else can say it. That's my greatest comedy achievement. My offstage, my daughter is my greatest achievement because she is amazing. She's an artist. She travels the country doing anime conventions and Comic Cons, doing her art, drawing, and people buy her art. And yeah, she's got more talent than I'll ever have in my entire life. And watching her, that's my greatest.
That's achievement. Awesome. What's her name?
Her name's Andy.
Andy, very cool. David, where can people find you on social media? Is there one spot you like people to land to look for you?
Well, yeah. If you're on TikTok, just that's where I am a lot. It's Mr. Showtime.
Okay.
ITSMR Showtime. It's Mr. Showtime. Okay. Twitter, it's Mr. Showtime. Instagram it's Mr. Showtime. Facebook, it's all it's Mr. Showtime. Website www.itsmrshowtime.com. But find me on TikTok. I'm probably on TikTok 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. Well, I'll leave all that in the description, man. It's been a pleasure visiting with you. It's so great to see you live in person, and I'm so glad that I asked. I literally got done with the show, and I told Anna, I said, I really want him on the podcast. And so I'm glad I got the courage to ask you because this has just been enjoyable. So, listen, I would love to stay in touch. I want to follow your career. I want to definitely see you live again next time you're around, I go to all kinds of places. So even if you're within a couple of hours, I'm going to get a truckload of people together and we'll come see you live somewhere.
That'd be awesome.
But I definitely, truly friend to friend now, I want to stay in touch and follow your career for sure. So
absolutely.
Hey, and in 18 months, how about a residency in Vegas? It doesn't matter where at. If you can stay in Vegas and make your career for the next 10 years, let's do it,
Yeah, I'm down. That's the dream.
All right, brother. Thank you for your time. Have an amazing rest of your day. I'm excited, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, my friend. Stay out of trouble.
Yes, you too.